Live from the slightly twisted deck bar, it's the Poojie Podcast with Justin Lemie.
The Poojie Podcast is proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club, located in Jacksonville, Florida, off County Road 210, just west of St. John's Parkway.
Alrighty, here we go. Yes, indeed. Thank you to Cimarron Golf Club, located right there off County Road 210. They do a fantastic job over there. Was out there with my dad a few weeks ago celebrating his birthday, and we celebrated some low scores as well. So he might have gotten a little bit older, but his scores are getting a little bit younger. I'm happy to see him playing well, and it's all got to do with the condition of the course over there at Cimarron Golf Club. Very excited to see what they've done to the course. And in news in the Poojie Podcast world, had a fantastic night of some action. Posted my 8-leg parlay on the Instagram, the Poojie Podcast. If you don't follow it, be sure to go follow that immediately. That way you can win some money, I win some money, we all win some money, we all have fun. Just posted my Thursday night picks right now for 11-5. A little cross-pollination between the NFL and college football. We got some West Coast college football going on. Excited about that. And the Jaguars were on a bye this past week. If you saw the content I put out from Week 8's episode up until Sunday with Game Time and then the weekend sports rundown, very excited that the Jags were on bye. But now I'm also excited that the Jags are back. 1 week without Jaguar football was enough for me, and now we'll see what they can do with a little bit of a change going on at the quarterback spot, which we'll definitely dive into here in this episode. I'm excited for this episode. I have two friends joining me on this episode that aren't typically on the NFL podcast, but I love to switch it up a little bit, get some friends on here that have some new ideas, fresh thoughts about different things in the world of the NFL, and they're fans of different teams than we're fans of. Of course, we're Jaguar fans. We love talking Jaguar football, specifically before November when the season's already over, but we're here to talk football all the way through and even some fantasy conversations as well. So without further ado, Luke, I want to welcome you in here. I mean, Jaguars were on a bye this past weekend. How'd you enjoy your bye week? Did you relax a little bit without any Jaguar football to worry about?
Yeah, no, it was awesome not having to watch the Jaguars lose. Interestingly enough, we were sitting at a bar on Friday with my girlfriend Stephanie, and she got a job offer, so that was cool. And then immediately after that, I said, hey, pick these different college games for tomorrow in a parlay, just $1 parlay. And she got 8 out of 9 right. And she even picked some underdogs like Michigan State, which she wanted to take straight up. And I said, no, they're like 21-point dogs. Let's not do that. And then they won. And I was like, oh, my God. So look out for the Poojie parlay picks and maybe another Stephanie 9-team parlay, which you might be able to get some money off of.
No, I like it. Honestly, I have people reaching out to me to get my picks throughout the week as it is, and it's fantastic to give my picks out, but I even love it better when I get picks sent into me specifically from the girlfriends of the group. So it was an exciting kind of following her picks, and that Temple game is what lost it for her. I mean, she had Michigan State. The Temple game lost it for her, and unfortunately that wasn't even close. That was going to be a huge payout, but shout out to Steph.
Oh my God. It was like we checked every score, and it was there were a few upsets in there that she picked too. Like the Michigan State, I know was an upset. West Virginia, I believe, was an upset, and then I think Purdue might have been an upset. And then Temple was just a blowout, and it was like, wow.
Temple, hey, listen, man, Temple burned me earlier in the year, so it's tough for me to ride with Temple. I love to support the American Athletic Conference, but Temple hasn't been getting the job done, so I know what that feels like. But like I said, Naction is back. We had picks last night and then picks tonight as well. We'll have more going into the weekend. Went 9-5 last week on the NFL picks, 80-39 total through 8 weeks of the football season. I'm happy with that. I'll have my week 9 NFL picks coming out on Sunday morning. Be on the lookout for that for sure on the podcast channel on Instagram as well as Twitter, Poojie Parlay, and on Facebook if you are with me on Facebook as well. I do want to get into some football talk real quick. Matt Maynard, jump in here. You've been on the podcast before talking baseball, talking Big Brother. Well, here we are to complete the 3 Bs. Baltimore Ravens. Man, what happened this past weekend with the Baltimore Ravens?
Oh, man, I don't know if I even want to keep talking about it. It's just my assumption is Lamar did not play like the MVP season he had last year. Made some very indecisive decisions. 2 costly picks. One ran it back, and one to start the second half. But on the bright side, the running game was very strong against a very good front seven for the Steelers, one of the best run defenses in the NFL. And we put up 265 yards on the ground. So that's a plus right there. But then again, Lamar didn't make very good decisions. And defensively, a lot of mental errors. We had 9 penalties for over 100 yards. Just got to fix things up. It was very frustrating. I thought we had a chance at the end, but all in all, we made a lot of mental mistakes, and we just kind of gave Pittsburgh the game right there. So, tough one to swallow.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, I'm not even a Ravens fan, but you look at that team, and Lamar Jackson is obviously the future of Baltimore, but they're sitting at 5-2 right now. Both those losses are against playoff contending teams, especially with the Steelers sitting at the only undefeated team left. You'd like to see Lamar Jackson get over the hump and start winning some of these bigger games, or else he's going to have that cloud follow him throughout his career until he can start shedding some of that. So unfortunate there for Lamar Jackson. Still plenty of time to bounce back, especially this week with a big game that I know we'll get into in a little bit. So, Matt, thanks for jumping on. Steven, I do want to flip over to you. You've been on as well to talk some baseball, and you've dropped in to jump on the soapbox a little bit here and there. You're a Steelers fan. You're a Steelers fan. Your team got the big dub on Sunday against Matt's Baltimore Ravens. How does it feel as a Steelers fan sitting there? 7-0, is that correct?
Yes, 7-0. I mean, obviously it feels good. You want to win games, especially like that with playoff implications. So always nice to even beat a rival. But much respect to Matt and the Baltimore Ravens over there. They're a well-run team and a well-run organization. So we did all. People will say we also struggled there in the first half mightily. I think the key to the game was Lamar's 4 turnovers, which obviously certainly one of them was a pick 6, which helped us, get started. But it is a little concerning at the end. We had a 3rd and 1 there with about 2 minutes left, and you would like to see a first down there to not have to give the ball back to Lamar and the Ravens offense. But, we hung on there at the end. But, we will be seeing them again soon, and most likely, could be seeing them again in the playoffs. So definitely, work still to be done.
This is a matchup that many people are going to have to get used to seeing 3 times a year, because you get 2 in the division and then you'll probably get 1 in the playoffs every few years, especially with this expanded field. I can almost guarantee it's going to happen sooner than later, if not this year. Steelers do have a little bit of an easier matchup this week. 3-4 weeks ago, it would have been looked at as one of the marquee matchups of the week against Dallas. We're not going to dig too deep into that one. All I got to say about that is if you have any Steelers offensive players on your fantasy team, start them. And if you have any Dallas players, sit them. This is not going to be a good game for the Dallas Cowboys. I cannot project. So Steelers are looking good for this week, looking like they'll move to 8-0 pretty easily. Speaking of fantasy football, fantasy as a Jaguar fan, well, 1, it's a fantasy for us to have a good team, but 2, fantasy is really one of the only things that we have to look forward to. We talked about that week 7 and week 8. Luke, let's go over to you. Do you have any fantasy players this week that could potentially boom in a week 9 matchup?
I do like DK Metcalf just because he is on a rampage this season. Russell Wilson is slinging the rock, and DK Metcalf's just there to catch it. And sometimes he'll run it in about 40 yards and then get punched out through the end zone. But, sometimes it just happens like that. DK Metcalf is going to be having a good game. They're playing the Bills, so it's going to be a tough matchup in the secondary. But they also have Tyler Lockett, so it kind of spreads it out a little bit, and the corners have to choose who you want to guard. You have to guard DK or you have to guard Tyler Lockett. And Russell Wilson will just make plays anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I also want to see Dalvin Cook have another good game against the Lions, who are a bad football team, and Dalvin Cook took off last week. So look for Dalvin Cook to repeat as they play the Lions.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns for Dalvin Cook, all 4 touchdowns in the game. Definitely helped me out in our Yahoo League that we have with our college friends. Won there. 47 points from Dalvin Cook was a huge day from him. 3 on the ground, 1 through the air for Dalvin Cook. And like you said, DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson has to be licking his chops every time he steps on the field with those 2 wide receivers. 2 top 10 fantasy wide receivers, which only translates to 2 top 10 NFL wide receivers, if you ask me. I mean, that's got to be great for him, and he's only had good offenses there in Seattle. Now, if the defense could step up a little bit and maybe get some stops for Seattle, that would definitely help them out. But they're still doing well nonetheless. We'll get to Seattle.
We don't want that. We want it to be a shootout, so that means more points.
That's
true. You don't want defense in fantasy. You want shootouts.
That's true, and we'll be getting to the Seattle game in a little bit, which a shootout might be tough to come by against a Buffalo team. We'll get to that soon. Matt, jump back in here. Any fantasy boom players that you're looking at for Week 9?
Yeah, sticking back with my Ravens, I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins as another fantasy boomer. He put up 113 yards rushing on the Steelers as his first he didn't start the game, but he's been splitting with Gus Edwards as Mark Ingram is still hurt as he's not projected to play this week. But looking at J.K., it almost mimics another Ray Rice guy. Very small, quick steps. He can burst through the hole. And he's a very tough guy to tackle. I don't know how many missed tackles he had for the Steelers, but I think he's gonna boom again. I expect hopefully a touchdown from him, maybe 2. I know the Colts have a very good run defense, but so did the Steelers, and look what we did to them. So I expect him to have another great game this week.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that about the good run defenses. It's tough to hold that against certain players in certain matchups when they're just on teams that score points at certain situations. And I'm similar to what Luke said about DK Metcalf. If the offense is the offense, that's not going to change drastically fantasy-wise. At least we haven't seen that too frequently this season. The players are going to produce that are going to produce. And I mean, I would even label J.K. Dobbins as a fantasy sleeper. My brother and I were talking about him this past weekend. He has him on his team. Gus Edwards vultured a touchdown from J.K. Dobbins, but Dobbins feasted nonetheless. It was a great day from him. I'm looking forward to what he can do. He's a great young player in the NFL on a great young team in the NFL. So we'll see what happens. Steven, let's go to you. Your fantasy boom player of the week.
Yeah, so I'm sipping currently on some Yingling Good Boy juice, and oldest brewing company in America. Where? Pittsburgh. So my segue is look for 2 Pittsburgh Steelers to have a boom this week. You mentioned it earlier. Big Ben's already played the NFC East twice this year, and if you're following in standard leagues, I'm in one myself. He had 21 points twice, so in both matchups, look for him to have another 20-point or more game this week against that shit Dallas defense. And also look for Chase Claypool, my boy, rookie standout from Notre Dame, to also have a boom as well. That connection has been nice this year. So
I knew you had to get Chase Claypool in there out of Notre Dame. That's your team. Luke, let's go back to you.
One question here, Steven. If you have both Juju and Chase, who do you play?
Playing both. Dallas sucks.
Luke, what's your wide receiver situation looking like? Can you only start one?
I mean, DK's playing, obviously. And then I have Juju and Scary Terry, who's playing the Giants.
You can't go wrong with any 3 of those.
Yeah, but I'm trying to pick between Juju or Chase.
Oh.
You can give it to him, Juju or Chase. Take your bias out of it.
We need quotes right now.
Juju on that beat.
There you go.
You know what? Here's what I'm looking forward to in that game. I need the Steelers to jump out to a big lead. Sure, I don't care. Hopefully Juju has 2 touchdowns to start the game. I need James Conner to have at least 30 carries in this game by, the 4th quarter because he's on my team. So selfishly, I need James Conner. I need the Steelers to go up big, and I need James Conner to take the game home.
If we don't have 21 points by halftime, I'll send a shotgun in.
You'll shotgun a beer. You'll send one into the podcast?
Yes.
All right. I'm holding you to that. I'm going to go similar to Luke with the Seahawks. That Tyler Lockett does look kind of spicy there, but I am going to go with Stephon Diggs actually against Seattle. I think Stephon Diggs is set to have a breakout game. Not only, I'm pretty sure, is it in Buffalo. Let me check that real quick. I'm pretty sure the game is in Buffalo, but this Seahawks defense is not very good at all. Yes, it is in Buffalo. So I expect, granted, home field advantage doesn't necessarily matter as much anymore. but Seattle coming to the East Coast, playing against a team that has shown that they can be an offensive power in the Bills. If Josh Allen plays pretty well, I think Stephon Diggs is going to have a nice day on Sunday. My fantasy sleeper, I'm going to go with Justin Jackson of the Chargers versus a Raiders team that hasn't done too well stopping the run. They were in a messy game last week against the Browns, pretty much an all field goal game, minus one touchdown for the Raiders that won it for them pretty much. But I'm going to go with Justin Jackson. I think he has a great day, maybe even some backfield catches from Justin Herbert, who has played well above standard. From you guys, speaking well above standard, any players stand out so far through the first half of the season that have just been playing above their expectations, or maybe even players that have played below their expectations, whether it's fantasy or just standard NFL play?
Yeah, you can do both. Michael Thomas, where the fuck you at, bro?
We're looking for Michael Thomas. Well, he's been injured. Who has played all 8 weeks that has maybe underperformed? Bueller? Anyone?
The Jags as a team.
Just the Jags have underperformed. Luke, anyone from you?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I have two pretty shit teams. I mean, DJ Chark's been playing bad, but I don't even know if it's because of him or if it's because Gardner's been kind of hurt with a thumb thing for the past 3 weeks. So he's underperformed a little bit, but my wide receivers have kind of evened themselves out, so it's all right.
Just for me, kind of just off the dome, I'm looking at the schedule this week. I think Matt Stafford has kind of underperformed a little bit this season. He hasn't played up to his standard Matt Stafford fantasy-esque type play. He's definitely one. And then obviously due to Dak Prescott getting injured, but even before Dak Prescott got injured, Amari Cooper was not playing too well, and he's even fallen off the map further since Dak Prescott has taken a seat on the bench for recovery purposes. Any other Week 9 storylines heading into Week 9 football, and then we'll get into intrigue matchups. Any storylines, Steven, from you? I know you mentioned something before the podcast. If you want to get into that for me real quick. I know we have a pretty big-time player coming back into the fold. If you want to go for it, Steven.
Yes, this is my cat head and my diva of the week. Welcome back, Antonio Brown, everybody. Welcome back, Antonio Brown.
How do you think AB favors this week against the Saints?
He could be similar to last year with the Patriots against the Dolphins. Maybe get one touchdown, but I'm more liking. I'm going to go a prop bet here. I'm going to take the Saints for the under of punches thrown. I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson last week, took a punch from the Bears receiver, Mr. Wims. I think he forces another punch this week to Antonio Brown. Maybe gets a chain snatched as well.
I like it. Maynard, anything from you? Week 9 storylines.
Deshaun Watson steamrolls that Jags defense.
That's a storyline we've seen all too well. All right, here, I'll take it a step further for you. Which Texans player has more fantasy points this week against the Jags? David Johnson, Will Fuller, or Brandon Cooks?
I'm going to go Will Fuller. Because I will speak for Jacob here. Jacob thinks he'll go for 2 touchdowns. That's his hot take this week.
It's extremely likely. The only way I would see Brandon Cooks having more is if he's going up against the second cornerback, which on a lot of teams would be the 5th cornerback. So, both matchups are going to be easy for Will Fuller or Brandon Cooks. But I think Deshaun Watson could have two rushing touchdowns, to be honest with you. Luke, any storylines for you?
Yeah, I'll say going back to your last question too, an overperformer, it would be Justin Herbert on the Chargers. He was a waiver wire pickup for people struggling with quarterback problems. If you had Dak Prescott fall out or your quarterback just wasn't performing as well, Justin Herbert's like top 10 right now, I think, in performance. He's only had a few weeks. He's had maybe two less weeks than every other starter. So he's going to go out, play the Raiders. Not that great of a defense. It should be a good game for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and even on that Justin Herbert note, another waiver wire pickup, Ryan Tannehill. He had a little bit of a dud last week, and he played well in 2019. but I don't think a lot of people were expecting that talent to roll over to 2020. He's been consistent with it. For one thing, I think it has a lot to do with Derrick Henry, not as far as Derrick Henry's talent, but more so Derrick Henry takes pressure off Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill can just go out there and have some fun. Defenses stack the box against Derrick Henry. He's got Jonnu Smith up the middle. Corey Davis isn't a scrub wide receiver. You got A.J. Brown, who's not a scrub wide receiver. I mean, the Titans and Ryan Tannehill, they've definitely overperformed. But let's take it into our Week 9 intrigue matchups. Maynard, we'll start with you. I have a feeling I know where you're going with this one, and I'm happy you are because this actually is a pretty intrigue matchup of the week.
Yep, you're pretty much going to read my mind. Let's just go 3 picks. I'm just going to keep talking about them. My intrigue is going to be Baltimore and Indianapolis. I said Baltimore's coming off a tough loss, going into on the road, playing another very good run defense with the Colts. But like I said, we put up 265 yards against the Steelers. I think we can do that. Plus, this is the first time the Colts have faced a dual-threat quarterback this year. So we'll see if Lamar can get it together and see if he can play himself a good game. Phil Rivers, on the other hand, has also been playing well. So we'll see if he can take advantage of a defense that's going to be stint short because of COVID. But it's going to be tough, but I think my team will pull it out.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that the Ravens almost desperately need to win, simply based off of behind them in the AFC wildcard picture. You have 2 teams at 4-4. You have the Broncos at 3-4. So even though there's 7 playoff spots, it's not a cakewalk. And at this point, it looks like the Steelers are going to win the AFC North. The Browns are right there as well. So the Ravens definitely need to win this game to separate themselves and at least get a game in hand against the Colts, because if the Titans win the AFC South, then the Colts are going to be vying for that wild card spot, and the Ravens need to have the tiebreaker over the Colts. So I like that there. What's your score prediction?
I'm going to go 23-20 because the Ravens also right now, 30 games in a row, they score more than 20 points. So hopefully they can keep it up.
So 23-20 Ravens. All right, I like it. Let's go over to Steven. Steven, what do you got for us?
Yeah, real quick. I know I wanted to give one fantasy sleeper real quick too. Another one for a potential boom is look for Jerry Jeudy to actually have potentially a very big game against a very mediocre Atlanta Falcons defense as well. He's been struggling, but that offense as a whole has kind of been up and down. But look for them to probably, and him especially, to probably get a big boom. And now for my intriguing matchup, it has to be, for my last segment, it has to be the Bucs Saints. I'm really looking at this NFC South matchup. I'm just trying to keep it real with everybody. I'm still holding it to the chest right now with the Bucs. Everybody's deeming them a Super Bowl contender, top 2 in the NFC. But, I think they're running 4th right now in the NFC. I think, even though the Packers lost to the Bucs, I still like the Packers. Obviously, Seattle's my number 1 right now. I know the defense we've mentioned already, is struggling right now, but how can you not bank on that offense with DK and Russ just absolutely cooking right now? And then even the Saints, I know it was back in week 1, but they played at home and the Saints won. And for me, until the Bucs show me on the field that they can beat the Saints, I still like the Saints, and I like the Saints on Sunday as well. And look for hopefully Diva Michael Thomas to be back, and hopefully Emmanuel Sanders is back, so that makes it a very, very fun Sunday night.
Yeah, that'll be good. It's been funny watching the Buccaneers play. I'd like to think that they are contenders, but part of what I've seen from them has been a little bit of a pretender-esque look. So you said it there perfectly. Slow start versus the Packers, dominated the Packers. Slow start versus the Giants. Never really got it going versus the Giants, and then a 2-point victory versus the Giants. So this is a game that the Buccaneers could really set themselves apart as a contender in the NFC.
For me, I think the Bucs need to win. We talk about playoff seeding too. I think the Bucs really need to win the division. So this comes down to the division right here. If the Saints win, they basically hold a 2-game lead in the division. I think they're pretty much sitting really good, and I think the Bucs would probably need to beat, with Brady at the helm too, need to have that division lead versus potentially going on the road and facing in the first round of the playoffs, you might have to go out to Philly. And the NFC East has been pretty up and down this year, but could you imagine having Tom Brady go play the Philly in round one on the road? And, I would hate to be a Bucs fan to see if they lose, obviously.
Yeah, it'll be – I was hoping to get Morabito on here to talk a little bit of Philadelphia and the NFC least. But real quick on Jerry Jeudy, and then we'll move on to Luke Mucci before we finish up here. Atlanta Falcons are 5th worst in the NFL with fantasy receiver points allowed per game, only ahead of the Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland Browns, Vikings, so fantasy sleepers start Marvin Jones, and the Seattle Seahawks, which I mentioned Stephon Diggs already. So Jerry Jeudy could be a good play there. Luke, jump in real quick. Give me your intrigue matchup of the week.
Intrigue matchup of the week is going to be the Dolphins and Cardinals. Sorry, Miami fans, but Tua looked very bad last weekend. Even though the score says they won by a lot, their defense basically handed him 21 points. And so if you do some math, he got 1 touchdown. So it wasn't much of Tua. So you really want to see if Tua is good playing the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals are actually pretty good. They're looking pretty decent over there. They have a winning record. They're looking to try and beat this Dolphins team that is a pretty solid team. So I think it's going to be an even matchup, and it could go either way. If the Dolphins defense plays like they did against the Rams, it could go the Dolphins' way if Tua just steps up a little bit more. And I will give my Jaguars prediction. Jags lose to the Texans. I'm going to say it's going to be 28-17. Long Schlong Luton puts up 17 points.
I like it. I mean, honestly, pretty well said there about Tua. Defensive touchdown for the Dolphins, special teams touchdown for the Dolphins as well. So that was 14 points right there. And they won 28-17. Nonetheless, it is a team sport as much as the media does want to make it simply about the quarterbacks. I agree with you there, but, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are going to be looking to surface the Dolphins, if you will, bring them back down to earth. But they are riding high right now. They are my surprise team of the league so far. My intrigue matchup, we've talked about it before. I'll talk about it again right now. Seattle at Buffalo. I think this is a big statement game for both teams, more so for Buffalo, though, because they've had opportunities this year, including last week versus the Patriots, which I'm sure they were hoping the Patriots were a better team. They've had opportunities this year to make a statement in the NFL, and they have not done so yet. A blowout loss to the Titans included in that. But Buffalo versus Seattle, I think Buffalo has the upper hand on the offensive side of the ball simply because Seattle's defense has been so lackluster. But that's why we like to watch these types of games. I could see this being 34-31, anywhere in there. I mean, we've already seen the Bills kicker kick like 6 field goals in one game, so he could very well do that again. I will take the Buffalo at home versus Seattle as my intrigue matchup. And my Jaguars prediction, I mean, man, this is tough. Deshaun Watson has the Jaguars number. I'm going to go Texans 30-16 against the Jaguars. I don't think the Jags get anything going. James Robinson's going to be the bright spot. He'll have 25-plus fantasy points, and that'll be that. But that's all we got for you. We're running out of time here on the Poojie Podcast. Thanks for being here. Luke wants me to remind you to watch Long Schlong Luton play in the black and teal this Sunday against the Texans. But until next time, go follow on Instagram, the Poojie Podcast. Go subscribe on YouTube, and go make this world a better place. Take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?
Be sure to follow our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast streaming services, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out unique video elements for each interview.